Hello, good afternoon. Can anyone hear me? Hello,
Hello.
good afternoon.
Hello. Hey, Dami.
Hi, good
Can you hear me?
afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Can
Hello,
anyone?
Dr. Howie.
Hi, good afternoon. Me, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Hello, Temidai. I can
Hello,
hear
good
you. Can you hear
afternoon.
me?
So hi, is it only me who is struggling with audio, please? I can't really hear other people. Like it's really cracking. Is that just my internet?
Doctor, can you hear me?
Anyone hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, JJ.
Can anyone
Okay,
hear me?
Dami.
Afternoon.
I can hear you, Temidai. Dami, can you hear me? Dami, can you hear me?
Hello, Dami. Can you hear?
I don't think Dami is connected yet.
Dr. Fumi, can you hear me? Hello, Dr. Fumi. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, Odunayo, can you hear me, please?
I can, yes.
Oh, I think Dami is frozen. Hello, Dami. Can you hear me? Hello, Dami. I, I think she's frozen. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to meet us, and our session is on the age of revolution. Before I start, I would like to first of all get our thoughts on recent developments. We'll move from like recent to the old. But for the benefit of those who are joining us, I'd like to introduce our panelists formally. We have Damilola Marcos, Executive Director for the Design Studio. We have JJ Omojiwa, founder and chief strategist at Alpha Reach. We also have Odunayo Iweni, co-founder PiggyVest, Wine and Wine NG. We have Dr. Fumilayo Ogunsonya, a medical doctor. It's a pleasure to be moderating this panel. My name is Temidayo Siddiq. I'm editor for whyniger.com. So a quick one. I would like to find out from JJ, first of all. A lot of people believe that before the NSAS protests, we didn't really have movements in Nigeria. But we know that movements in Nigeria have always been a thing. For every point in time, we've always had movements. For example, I like to say that, so the fact of history is that we're actually used to movements. We have, during our pre-colonial struggle, the Lagos Youth Movement, which eventually evolved into the National Youth Movement, NST Koli and the likes. We had movements that also, during the period of the Civil War, early students movement, pro-democracy, when we're going to transition to democracy, the military era. I mean, we've had movements, but it appears that there was a break the moment we returned in '99. What do you think, Omojo, what do you think resulted in the indifference and apathy amongst Nigerians, especially young people?
I'm not going to say there's an apathy. I'm just going to say that the fact that we had Enough is Enough Nigeria in 2010 and we had Occupy Nigeria in 2012, and we just, I don't even think NSAS has ended. So now we're having NSAS. I don't think we've had these movements. I think that sometimes we confuse these political opportunities to challenge the system as movements. Because I think that to have a movement, there has to be some sort of resource mobilization, there has to be some sort of organizing, there has to be some sort of coming together on some ideology. Too many times, for instance, we say that Nigerian political parties don't have an ideology. And I often ask people in my private circle, what's the ideology? Like the five of us here, we are assumed to be a group of people that want a different Nigeria. But do we even, five of us now, do we even have a common ideology? The so-called turning point generation, do they even have a common ideology? Because somehow we've confused the fact that we can constantly, which the old generation did not have. So social media has become a gift and a curse in a way, because the old generation could not afford to talk to themselves the way we talk to ourselves and talk to one another every day. So, I mean, whether even on phone or WhatsApp or Twitter or Instagram, they didn't have that. So they had to actually organize. They had no choice but to organize, to challenge the system, whether it was colonialism, whether it was the post-colonial movement. Nowadays, though, the gift of social media is also the cause. It's also the cause of social media, in the sense that because we talk about Nigeria's challenges every day, because somebody is going to post something on Medium, because somebody is going to post something on YouTube, talk about these Nigerian problems, because 2, 3, 4, or 5 trending topics that affect Nigeria are going to be on these platforms every week, we sort of subconsciously get into this thinking that we have a movement going on, but we actually don't have a movement going on. To have for instance, what kind of organizing are we doing? How have we been able to accommodate those that are not like us? I was following the previous conversation. They were talking about millennials and Generation Z, and they were just giving different qualities, and all the qualities they were giving were qualities that are exclusive to some privileged Nigerians that have access to the internet, that have access to cable. How do we even bring the ones that the internet and data are alien to them? To say you're building a movement, you have to put all of these things in there. And unfortunately, we don't have that yet. And I really do hope that, and which is why I think that the topic of this conversation is even funny. When you say, why is it so difficult to build a movement? You can't say something is difficult if you've not even tried to do it, right? So the question is, how do we now begin to build a movement?
All right, thank you very much, Omojo. You said some things, and instead of me, I was just smiling because I was going to ask. That's a burning question for me as a person that you spoke towards ideology. But if we go there now, I feel like we'll be going to the crescendo, like the climax of what we're going to discuss. So I will get back to that. So I want to speak to Odunrayo. I want to speak to you about culture. I want to speak to you on the issue of ethnicity and religion. So, yes, Omojo has said that is a bit perplexed, is surprised that we are discussing why is it difficult to build a movement when there's not really been a clear sign that people have tried to move at that direction. But I want to find out from you, some things have happened in the past. For example, we know that in the 90s, Ken Saro-Wiwa, who, by the way, we had the 25th anniversary of his passing on, or his murder by the then dictator, this year. So I want to find out from you. We had a movement for survival for Boni people. Movements have always been there until this time where we're not debating whether movements are actually there or not. What's the impact that culture, religion, ethnicity, what's the impact that had on building movements in Nigeria based on what you've observed? Do you think that it has been an issue?
Honestly, I don't have much to say about the impact of religion and culture on movements. The overarching reason would be that I'm extremely, extremely new to the concept of joining a political opportunity or movement, right? Relatively young as well. So by the time the Occupy Nigeria was happening, I wasn't even aware. I read about it, and then the ONSARS movement played more of a supporting role than a leading role. I will say though that from a general observation, it would be that the role of religion and culture is largely regressive when it comes to movements, because these are things that people largely place over the well-being of their fellow human beings, and anything that is ranked higher than the life of your neighbor, the life of someone who's close to you, the life of someone that you should care about, or any human life, then that's something that you need to deeply question, because of the constitution, because of the separation of church and state, because of the Chinese wall between these institutions, human lives take precedence over anything, and they historically haven't. So yeah.
All right, thank you. So one very strong point you've made that I'm holding strong to is that as much as you can't really say how much religion and culture has impacted the building of movement, but it's clear that Nigerians, for example, we are very religious people. I mean, the mass of Nigerians are religious people, and we place culture, but anything that has to do with religion and culture that takes priority over life should be discarded, right?
No, should be discussed, should be relatively
okay.
Yeah, it should be looked into and examined, because then there's a problem there. Human life should come first, regardless of what religion you subscribe to, what culture you subscribe to. You should care about your neighbor. Those are fundamental debts that humans owe to each other. And what you see historically again is that these things tend to take precedence over human life, and that's a big problem.
Okay. All right. So I'll come to you, Damilola. Largely, I know you organized and a couple of other persons you worked with. You organized the Market March, Yaba Market March in 2018, December 2018. And I once listened to you on the panel at Thursday Talks 2 years ago, where you talked about how a lot of persons fought against this idea that for them, why are you trying to change the norm and all of those things? And if you listen to what Omojo has said a while ago about how social media, you just see people express ideas without the quality of thoughts into what they put on social media is a bit low. It's not deep enough. It just shows that the herd mentality is present. But I want to ask you, do you really think that we've had the issue with leadership failure in a way that it has impacted on building movements? Do you think that that's lack of trust for leaders, young people see as leaders, has impacted building movements in any way, to the point that they now see somebody who is organizing the Market March and they're like, why should I follow this young woman in the first place? Maybe she's using it for her own selfish gain and all of those things. So I want to find out from you, for someone who has been on the front lines, do you think that leadership failure or distrust has impacted on building of movements? Hello, Damilola.
Okay. Yeah, I'm there. Thank you for your question. So just to be double clear, are you asking me what role I think the lack of trust in young leaders, what role it plays in our inability to build sustainable movement?
Precisely.
Just to be clear, that's okay.
Precisely.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So This question is there are many answers to it, but first let me clarify that I didn't have difficulty getting people to be a part of the movement initially. When I started Market Match, I wouldn't even call it a movement. I would call it pretty much a very ongoing organization, because we actually have still been doing work behind the scenes. It wasn't just a protest. So, and I didn't have any difficulty. As a matter of fact, I think that I got a lot of like good feedback from people like me online. The only difficulty that I experienced was at the market itself. And when I went to talk to traders and speak to the market leaders, that was after the match, when we're trying to find a way to find common ground and have more cordial conversations on what we could do, stuff like that. Because then the people there, they were looking at me like a young person, like, but we've learned along the way, and I think that's even less about them and more about, at the time, my understanding of community mobilization was not where it needed to be. There's certain things when you want to engage a community that you have to bear in mind. You don't go there on trying to pitch down your solution. You go there with the hopes to learn more about the problem, learn what they think the solution might be, and then offer ways to sort of help and advise. That's how it goes. Initially, that wasn't the approach I took. After the protest, I went there to do some research, and I went there to say, this is what we want to do. So I don't think the problem is just about youth. I think, yes, there is a factor of youth involved, but I don't necessarily see that as the big problem. All of the movements that I've been part of, or quote unquote movements or protests or whatnot I've been part of, online is where we get a lot of the follows. People would resonate to a cause that resonates with them, and nobody is looking at it as you're young. I'm not certain the role youth plays, but my experience has been that it's not something that is that significant.
All right, thank you very much. So, are you clarifying that the Yaba, the market march is not a movement, it was just a protest, and there's now an organization that has emerged from that?
Yes, yes, basically Market Match is an organization. It started out as a protest because I was frustrated and I just wanted to do something about it. But now it's an organization of many young women and very few men working behind the scenes. But I don't know if movement is the right word for it. Of course, we will still organize protests if need be, if we believe that a protest at that point in time would be a significant way to solve the problem or will make impact. We'll still do that. But at the core of it is more about finding other ways, creative ways to engage the problem and solve it.
All right, thank you very much.
I think I'll take Market Match as more of a movement than say NSAS, because Damilola was organizing, there is an ideology, you guys raised money. After the protest, after the going to the market, you still went back again to try to learn what you could do better. You're still organizing. So in my opinion, definitely there's a movement there. There's at least an element of a movement being built right there compared to the more popular, say, NSAS. NSAS could become a movement, or say Occupy Nigeria, that was really a political opportunity in the face of corruption and what's it called again, for subsidy.
All right.
Fair
Thank you
point.
very much. Hello, Dr. Fumi. Are you with us? Hello.
Yeah, I'm here. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so Omodra was trying to point out the fact that between in 2010 there was the Enough is Enough protest. In 2012, he talked about the Occupy Nigeria. That was just about protesting against fuel subsidy, and before you knew it, it blew up. But between 2012 and 2020, we cannot run away from the fact that there was largely general apathy among young people, where the NSAS hashtag Reform Police actually started trending since 2017, but nobody really did anything about nobody really did anything about protests coming out to the streets. So I want to ask you, what do you think are the reasons for the seeming, what looks like an awakening of and success, if you think that the answers I want to say movement, but the module I said answers is not much of a movement. But what do you think led to this success and awakening that the answers movement has brought?
I think the main thing that the NSAS movement proved is the fact that young people can organize, actually. Young people can organize, young people can get themselves on the streets, young people can sustain a protest, and young people can make clear demands. Now, just like Omojua said, the strength of the NSAS movement, or the strength of the NSAS protest, let's put it that way, to a large extent also contributed to the problems that the NSAS protest had. Now, I draw a lot of similarities between Occupy 2012 and the NSAS protest, and I'll tell you where. The Occupy 2012 was a culmination of a lot of disappointments and pain and dissatisfaction with the government. Now, while the primary thing being talked about was fuel subsidy, but underlying all that pain was a populace that was deeply dissatisfied with the government of the day. That was the basic thing that happened in 2012. Now, if you fast forward to 2020, the government in government for about 5 years is been pretty much an endless run of incompetence, corruption, lawlessness, police brutality. So the NSAS, even though it had the face of put an end to SARS, but underneath it are people who were pretty much very disappointed with the government's handling of corruption, government being incompetent, people being poor, people being jobless, students being out of school. There was a whole lot of pain underneath it that was driving the NSAS thing. So I think that the NSAS protest gave young people an avenue to showcase their disappointment with government. Now, unfortunately, unlike the Occupy 2012, which was a rallying point for everyone, regardless of age or gender or religion or ethnicity, NSAS was pretty much young people fighting against the system. Now, some older people who were not technically part of the system also saw it as they didn't understand what it is about. So, and again, that points us back to what Omojua was saying, because a whole lot of impetus and motivation was coming from social media, which a lot of the older people were not on. So there was a lot of ignorance and disinformation about the whole protest, which then meant that it was more of young people trying to take on the system themselves. But again, as I've said, it was a huge success in the fact that the country was brought to a halt. At least SARS was what looked like, for the first time in the last 3 or 4 years that the whole NSAS thing has been going on, it looked like it has truly ended for good this time. Now, whether you want to say that police brutality will be addressed or not, that's a long-term conversation. I'm not sure what the answer is going to be on that. But I definitely know that in terms of, can young people organize? Yes. Can young people inspire a protest? Yes. Can young people make clear demands that will get to the president's ears or whatever? Is definitely a yes. Now, whether you can then convert or sustain this movement, it will require a whole lot of other things that goes beyond Twitter and tweeting things or getting people on the streets or whatever. Because part of organizing a protest is understanding the things that kill a protest. One of which is things you've already mentioned, like ethnicity, like not carrying everybody along, hoping to be young people to take on all the system yourselves and by yourselves, and also not understanding that a point will come, you can check all protests in the world, a point will come where people will be shot and people will be killed. So part of running protests is understanding that kind of a green reality and also having a plan or preparing for that kind of an outcome. So I think ENDS has pretty much had its good sides and strong points, but there were some other things that came up which we needed to have looked into or to have addressed somewhat.
All right. Thank you very much. Please, I need to appeal to everyone. I just got a message from the backstage guys that I probably have to restart the session so that Uloma can come in. So I'll just try that again. Apologies, please.
No worries.
That's fine. It happens. Finally.
Man. Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, I think there's a problem with my video, so we can go ahead. I'm trying to fix it.
Your voice is fine.
Okay.
Are you using Chrome?
Yes,
Uloma, are you
I'm
using
using
Chrome?
Chrome. I'm using Chrome, yes.
So maybe just grant all access.
Yes, I have done that, but there's a problem with my camera. Okay, I'll try
Okay.
using my phone to log in instead. Hello, Temidayo.
Temi is not back up yet.
Okay, all right.
If he doesn't come back up, you just be a moderator. But Uloma now has disappeared again. Wow. There's a lot that needs to happen in this virtual conferencing thing.
Yeah, I had some difficulty too.
Yeah. Wow. The moderator is not here. Doctor, are you going to become my moderator? So what I was saying about protests and movements is that I think that our generation, and when anything I say, I also include myself, of course. We've sort of, because we get to be angry about Nigeria, we have an opportunity to be angry about everything in Nigeria every day, literally everything, because you can just tweet it, you can just post it on Instagram or whatever. We've lost the advantage that the previous generation had, which was that they had no choice but to come together physically, to sit down and ask themselves, what can we do? Uloma is back.
So I think that the platform only allows for 5 panelists at a time. So I don't think that can be come back up.
It looks like it. I don't know if they...
Does he want to type his questions in the chat and we can answer?
Don't be a bad idea. Let me tweet to him.